Good evening, and this is FTB Sports Talking Points, and we are going to be discussing the week that was for Spurs. I'm joined by my very special guest, Mike, as usual. Good evening, Mike. How are we?
Yeah, not bad, mate. Yourself?
Yeah, good, thank you. Good. Recovering after the week after yesterday and the results that we've had over the last few weeks, and just dealing with life as a Spurs fan, as I guess.
Life as a Spurs fan, and with Boris's announcement and stuff.
I've not even listened to it. I don't even like save that. I don't want to hear it now. I'll go and have a look afterwards because I'm sure it's not going to be anything decent. It's just going to be a load of gobbledygook and mess. So we can deal with that another point. But yeah, we've had a bit of a week so far this week with Spurs, and obviously we've got more games to come. But we'll get into it. We'll get straight into this.
Yeah.
1 foot in the Europa R32. So going back to our game last week, Thursday against Woflsberger away, which we won 4-1.
Yeah.
We're now into, said it's got round 32. We should be in the round of 16, so that's a mistake on there. I think we're already into the round of 16. What's your thoughts on Spurs progressing from the game which will be on Wednesday?
Well, you'd hope, what with us being 4-1 up, the return leg being played at Tottenham Hotspur Stadium? It is, isn't it?
Yeah, as far as I'm aware, it is.
As far as I thought it was. We're at home, 4-1 up. We are very much in the driving seat with this tie, and you'd like to think that we just manage ourselves through to the next round. That's all it really takes. Nothing silly. Nothing. Hopefully, Mourinho doesn't go too adventurous and start playing all these youngsters and stuff. I'd like him to play a semi-decent side, enough just enough to get us through to the next round. I don't want any injuries being picked up. I don't want anyone playing 90 minutes when there's no sort of real need to. I'd like to think we can sort of like maybe give those that might need 45 minutes, just that, and have them fresh, sharp for the weekend's game against Burnley, which essentially is another must-win game, really.
Yeah, my thoughts now. I've kind of looked at the league thing, and based on Jose's press conference recently after the West Ham game, which we'll get onto in a minute, it's looking more and more likely that he's going to not give up on the league, but I don't think it's going to be his priority. I think we've talked about this before.
Yeah.
I think this game is pretty much in the bag. Even we can't mess this up. I'd be very surprised if we have any issues going through to the round of 16.
Yeah.
We need to get some confidence going in the Premier League. We've lost 5 of 6 games. That's terrible form. That's relegation form. And the Europa League puts us into an opportunity to get into the Champions League via that route. And our league form doesn't suggest we're going to get there via that form. But as a cup team over 2 legs, I think Spurs can be definitely a threat, because Jose could maybe lose the first leg, but then try and work things out to maybe win the second leg. So I'm hoping that we can do that.
Yeah, and I agree with what you say there. I think we are, even though we're not sort of maybe not in the right form that we were the first half of the season. Going into that sort of, you'd like to think we're going to round 16, and we should go into round 16 without any hiccups. You'd like to think that there's not going to be many teams that would like to face us, even though we're not. As I say, even though we're not being formed, but still, I would have thought most teams would want to avoid us.
Look at our strike force. If we get that right in terms of getting stuff right at the back, and even if we're still a little bit shaky at the back, if we can just maybe attack a little bit more, and the signs were there. Like I said, we're getting onto the West Ham game in a minute, but the signs are there that we are probably going to have to be the best form of defense, as the cliche goes. But I think that's probably more the fact for us now, because our defense is absolutely shocking at the moment. Shocking.
Yeah, there's no denying that.
No, there's absolutely none. So I'm hoping that the game on Wednesday will be a formality, a home game for Spurs against Woflsberger, and we should be then comfortably into round of 16. And then I don't know who we get. Obviously, I think the English teams can be drawn in that round, I think.
Yeah, from my knowledge, they can.
Yeah, we just need to, again, if we get a bit of luck with that, we'll see. I think I'm confident we can progress in this because of the fact it's 2 legs. It's not just a one-off game.
Yeah.
That's
Well, yeah.
that's the same.
And I totally agree with you. 2 legs. Yeah. We're still a force. We just got to find that confidence. Once we've got that back, then we've got players coming back now. Like Aurea, I heard Aurea's back training. So if he's back, Reggie's back, and Lo Celso's training. That's a massive plus. So all of a sudden, if these players start coming back, that will just be a confidence boost anyway. Just because the players will start seeing that the full squad is back, everyone's in contention, everyone's fit and sort of available to play, and all of a sudden that in itself is a confidence booster because all of a sudden you can see as a strike force going forward, we've got creativity, especially now that the fullbacks, they can give that creativity. So I think things could start looking up for us, especially now we've got these players coming back.
Cool.
Yeah.
That's good. Just a quick one, like, subscribe, share, comment. Let's get the numbers up. We're on the road to 500. So if you can, go click, smash that like button. Also share as much as you can for this and push the notification bell just to ensure that you get all the content from FTB Sports regularly. Let's move on to our next point. Hammer blow. Obviously in reference to our game yesterday against West Ham. Spurs lost that 2-1 in a game where, you know, I thought it had to be a must-win game. We didn't win it. We should have won it. Given I looked over the chances that we had again, we had a load of chances. They had, I think it was 4 shots in total, and I think all of them were on target. So 4 out of 4. We had 20 shots and had 4 on target. Hit the crossbar, hit the post, whatever. It was just... Yeah, but, you know, a lot of the fans are in meltdown now. You know, I saw a lot of stuff on Twitter, a lot of stuff on Instagram, and fans are like, they've had enough. They just don't, even though the performance, if you look at the performance overall, apart from the defensive errors, it was a pretty deep. Well, the second half was decent anyway. Second half was really good.
Yeah, and the performance, like you just said, overall the performance, you cut those 2 errors out, and it's a completely different game. And the performance, even in the first half, I don't think the performance was bad. It was just the way West Ham were set up. They were very compact. They were hard to break down. But on another day, when 20 chances, and you've got the likes of Kane, Son, Bale, all on the pitch. On another day, that could have been pardon the pun, but we could have hammered West Ham quite comfortably. But sometimes these things don't go the way we anticipate. And I say in that West Ham game, and especially in the second half where we were pressing, even after we got the first goal, I still thought that we might have got nicked a second goal because, as I say, the chances were coming. But there's certain things that you don't want to see, and if you're pushing for an equaliser, you don't want the likes of Sanchez turning around on the volley, where, as I say, yesterday, they're still probably chasing that ball, waiting for it to come down. The same with Dyer. You don't want your centre-backs taking pop shots from in and around the 18-yard box because you know it's not going to end well. Yeah. So just don't pass it. You're better off, if you're a striker or midfielder, instead of teeing one of them up, you're better off just taking the shot yourself. You'd probably have more chance of working the keeper than those two will. So... And I know we've got Europa Wednesday, but I still don't want to see them 2 play them. But if it means Toby being fit and available for the weekend game against Burnley, then you might just have to sort of persevere with it.
Some of the things that Jose was saying in that post-match press conference, he mentioned something like there are problems within the team that he cannot resolve. He didn't really elaborate too much on that. I don't know whether that's a dig at the players, whether that's a dig at the board. It's just it's one of them strange things that he does. And I know Jose is very big on this psychology stuff, and he uses the press a lot to kind of get his points across and all the subliminal messages that he likes to put in. That one kind of, it's like, I'm not so sure what's going on here.
That it was a very sort of open comment as to there's plenty of ways you could interpret that.
Oh yeah, exactly. That's the
And
point.
it's a kind of a smart comment from him because he's not elaborating on what he said. He's left it's very much sort of open to interpretation. So yeah,
Yeah, it set everybody off now. It set everybody off thinking: is he having a dig at the board? Is he saying he hasn't had enough money invested? Is he saying that these players aren't good enough and he can't do anything more with them? I don't. It's not good to hear. But he did obviously come back with other stuff to say. He doesn't think we've reached our full potential.
And that's obvious, isn't it? It's obvious to see
and
that.
that's
I mean,
an obvious statement.
yeah, and the other thing as well, like from his perspective, surely to high heaven, you can see the issue is it's not with the fullbacks, although you could argue Taganga didn't quite have the best game against West Ham, and that might have been the reason why he got pulled off at half time. But the issue is not really with him or the other, or even when Davis was at left back. The issue is with those centre backs. So if you're Mourinho, surely you sort of think, well, let me do myself a favour here. Don't play those two centre backs who have got plenty of mistakes in them, and play my more trusted centre backs. Well, it's obvious, isn't it? Rodon, Toby, even Taganga, give him a go. He's like Darius said the other day. He's naturally a centre back. That's where he sees himself. He's quick. He's powerful. He can't do any worse than the likes of Sanchez and Dyer.
Oh,
So
you think he couldn't do any worse?
no,
I would hope. I would hope that they are actively looking at solutions for this centre back pairing, and maybe we might see a bit of an experiment in the game on Wednesday. Although saying that Rodon can't play because he's not eligible, and he's been out the squad the last few games anyway. So again, there are little things in there which is kind of like, is there more going on behind the scenes that we don't know? I think that's obvious. I think these things start to leak out, and I'm hoping that we don't start to get little leaks out in the press of players in this. At the moment, it's still very much Jose saying stuff and not coming out from the players. But you know what it's like. You can start to get whispers, shall we say. So we've got a new viewer here, Paul Carr. So welcome, Paul. Paul said, I don't think it's the usual confidence issue right now. And I mean now, when Kane came back, we played better for one match. So that showed me it's more than a confidence issue. And you might have something in there. I think it's a combination of some of the players, maybe particularly the forward players. They see what happens in defense and they think, you know what, every time, if they don't score, we can't really keep clean sheets. So it's looking like we have to score more than one goal to win any game at the moment. And I think Jose's always built this defensive type of solidity, and he just can't get that at the moment.
Yeah, I think you probably hit the nail on the head. I don't reckon you're far from the truth, to be fair. I mean, what confidence can you have when you've got certain centre backs making the mistakes that they do, and it's not just one-off mistakes; it's continuous mistakes. So
definitely,
that's got to play in the back of their minds at some point. And I wouldn't be surprised. I mean, we've all played football and all been in the dressing room when it's got heated and people say stuff, and who knows? Maybe they've all had words, and you just don't know. Really, do you?
I hope there has been, some fallouts, because I remember being in the dressing room and there's nothing. It's always hard when you do the clear the air things and people start having barneys at each other. But once it's done, if you're a team, you get back together. If you're a fractured team, then it's more difficult. But a lot of the time, you get these things out. People get to say what they get to say, and it's like, right, we wipe that clean. Let's all get together and get this thing done. So I'm hoping that can happen.
Yeah, and these boys have been around for they've been in there's been a squad for a good couple of years now. So if they have an argument, you'd like to think, right, we've had the argument, we've all said our piece. Let's move on now. We all know where we stand. The air's been cleared. We've all got it off our chest, which is sometimes the best thing just to do. Just get it off your chest, clear your mind, and get it done. Yeah.
Right, last talking point for tonight, and it's a bit of a controversial one, but again, there's been reports in various media outlets, and I think it's more a case of pundits making assumptions, shall we say, assumptions that if we don't do this, then this is going to happen. We don't know at the end of the day. Both these two players, Harry and Son, are currently contracted for quite some time with Spurs. I believe 2024 at the earliest. But we are trying to tie them down to new deals. So far, nothing's been signed. there has been words coming out the club to say, yeah, there doesn't seem to be issues, but there's always going to be pressure now. Is there now, pressure from the club to have to maybe get into this top four? We've had, these players saying that, they want to win trophies. Harry Kane's come out and said he wants to win trophies, but I think he's a Spurs. Son obviously is a great player, world-class player in my opinion, and he doesn't want to just be playing Europa League. And if we don't even have European football at all next season for whatever reason, that's going to be a massive blow for the team. So, this isn't going to go away. This is going to rumble and rumble, particularly if we don't get anything trophy-wise, silverware. What's your thoughts on losing these two players in the summer?
It's a good question. I think the first thing is, though, there's only going to be limited teams that are actually going to have the funds potentially to I mean, who's going to pay 150? I mean, Levi is not going to sell Harry Kane for anything less than 150. So who's going to be able to stump up that sort of cash for Kane in this current climate? Man City may be the only sort of club, or PSG, but let's be honest, Levy's never going to sell to Man City, regardless of what the figure is, because he's not going to sell to a rival club and make them stronger. And is Harry Kane going to want to go and play in France when all but a PSG? That league is, I mean, that's championship. I'd say probably championship level in some respects. Some of the teams in that league in France. So I'd see that as a step down. I wouldn't see it as a step up. I know they've got Champions League football, but I just can't see Kane playing in France. And I mean, Barcelona and Real Madrid have got their own issues, their own financial issues. I think we've got Kane for another season. I mean, he's not far off from Jimmy Greaves. So Jimmy Greaves' goal scoring record. He's not far off that. So I wouldn't be surprised if he goes for that record, and then potentially we might see him go.
But there's things in the press. Again, this is just going back to what I've read. And again, we always have to take these things with the old cliche, pinch of salt.
Pinch of salt, yeah.
But there's words and things coming out to suggest that we may have to sell a big asset this summer to kind of balance books. We've got a few sellable assets in the club, none more so than Son, Kane. I'd put Ndombele in that bracket as well. Those three players there can generate a lot of money if they were to be sold. One of them were to be sold.
Yeah.
Is this something that the club could potentially do?
I think the more realistic player, if we were to get rid of anyone, would be Ndombele. As much as I rate him, and I think he's a fantastic player, one of our important players, I think he'd be one of the more realistic players to go, because we could replace him, and there is a couple of noises in the transfer rumours and stuff with a couple of players that we've been eyeing in Ndombele's position. So if anyone was to go, I think the realistic player who we could potentially sort of, I say sacrifice, I use that in a loose term, of course, but we could find a replacement easier than maybe the likes of Son and especially Kane. We're not going to find a replacement for Kane, so I can't see.
As Jose says.
Yeah, and I just can't see Lever sort of allowing our most prized asset to leave just yet. I mean, he's 27, so he's still got, in my eyes, he's still got 2 years potentially with us before we would even consider sort of moving on. And I think he will do it at some point, especially if we don't win anything and the trophies just aren't coming. Then I can see him sort of moving on. And the same with Son, but like you said, they're still contracted us till 2024. So if anyone, I think it's going to be on Ndombele. That'd be the sacrifice if we have to sell someone. Just my opinion, though. I might be completely way off the mark, but
I think there's going to be pressure in the summer. Don't get me wrong. I think and the press will do a lot to whip this up, because if we don't win anything, that's when I can see a real, stories coming out, a real little storm building up and brewing with these players. And if you hear these players start to come out in the press and say things, then I think we need to be a little bit more worried. At the moment, everything's very silent.
Yeah.
So we just have to, because I said, if we lose 2 players of that quality, world-class players, you don't replace them easily.
Nah,
not at all.
no.
So
it's very difficult to replace a world-class player, isn't it? I mean, regardless of what position they play in, you're not going to find another Harry Kane unless you're going to spend well over 100 million. So if Levi was to do that, then it's game over, isn't it? We'd have to really start over again. In fact, it'd probably be, you might as well just rebuild, because you're not gonna. We haven't got the money to go and spend that sort of value. So
it would have to be a rebuild job. But I just think the fan base would be in a total meltdown if these players were to start saying they want to leave. But again, we have to wait till the end of the season. I think it's a very important few months for Spurs coming up, and we need to ensure that if we can't tie these players up now, at least we can offer something to show them, this is the reason why you should be tying them down. But again, it's maybe a little bit early to kind of start thinking about them leaving, because, as I said, they're contracted for quite some time. But the pressure will ramp up the more this kind of continues.
Yeah, and it's obvious that we do need a rebuild, really. When you think about it, the back line needs a complete rebuild. So it might be that it is someone like, I don't know, it could be Ndombele, it could be Aurier, it could be even Hugo. I mean, he could be thrown into the mix to bring some money in. So, and I wouldn't be, to be honest, if Lloris was going on, he's club captain and stuff, and he's been a good servant to the club. But I mean, he's 34, pushing on 35 come summer. Again, could be an ideal opportunity to sort of take the plunge, say goodbye, and bring in someone younger, hungrier, perhaps.
Definitely. It's something we're going to be thinking about over the next the coming months anyway. So that's our points today. So I think we've done well. We've kind of just wrapped things up over the week quite neatly. So we're going to try and do this, if we can, on a regular basis weekly. This has been episode number 3 of Talking Points. Again, if you could like, subscribe, share, comment, hit that notification bell as well. Make sure you get subscribed so you can know when all these shows are coming out. And we'll try our best to keep everybody informed of all that's coming, all that's good with Spurs. But check out all the other fan channels as well. There's United, there's Arsenal. I believe there's even Chelsea that might be knocking about. So all good. I'm Sam, Spurs for Life. This is Mike as well. We hope you've enjoyed the show, episode number 3. Look forward to seeing you on the next one, but look out for our shows later on this week as we preview the games of Wolfsberg, and we also look at previews for the game against Burnley and reaction shows for both those as well. Mike.
Cheers, mate.
Take it easy, mate. See you later.
See you, buddy.